Hi, this is Mrs. Sykes, and in this little video we're going to talk about how the body prevents getting ill with infections and what the body does to get rid of infection once it has become infected. The first thing that the body does is try to stop any pathogen from entering the body. So pathogens are things that deliberately make us ill. So we're talking about viruses, some bacteria, but not all of them. We might be talking about protists, we might be talking about all sorts of other bits and pieces, something that causes an illness. There are lots of non-specific defences. Now this means that these defences are in place all of the time for every single type of pathogen. And it doesn't matter what type of pathogen that is, the body will do its utmost to keep everything out that is supposed to stay out of the body. The easiest one to talk about is the skin. The skin is a permanent barrier stopping anything from reaching the centre of our body and being able to infect. If we have a scab, if we have a cut, if we have an abrasion on that skin, it will heal itself using the scabs and using scar tissue. We will form scabs with our platelets. Platelets are small little bits that we find inside our blood, as well as the red blood cells and the white blood cells. And they form little crusts by all of these moon shapes clustering together to form a scab. And it forms a temporary barrier to stop things getting inside. And then underneath the scab, you form scar tissue, which is why if you've had a particularly bad cut, it might scar. It lacks elasticity. It's not the same as normal skin, but it has formed that barrier as quick as it possibly can so that pathogens cannot get into the body. The next one that we're going to talk about is the stomach, and we are talking specifically about stomach acid. And we use hydrochloric acid in our stomachs. It is something that you need to know, hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid, you might recognise it as HCl. Hydrochloric acid is really, really acidic. So as a consequence, any pathogen that we accidentally eat or drink should be killed by the stomach acid, and that should prevent us from getting stomach issues. There's obviously a few things you can still get food poisoning, but most things that enter our body through our food or our drink are killed off by stomach acid. So we should get more sick than we normally do. Some animals, like the dog, have got really strong stomach acid, which is why they can eat basically anything and not get sick. Our next non-specific defence is the nose, the trachea and the bronchi, because these work in a very similar fashion. So just in case you've forgotten, the trachea and the bronchi, these are words to do with the lungs. So we've got the trachea, which is this windpipe here, and then the bronchi are branches of these windpipes. So the branches, bronchi. So the trachea goes into bronchi here and bronchi here. So it's one bronchus, second bronchus, bronchi together. And these branches have little hairs on them. And they also have the ability to produce mucus. This is one of the problems that we get to when we look at cystic fibrosis, because the type of mucus that we make is too thick. In the nose, we obviously have hairs, and we again have mucus. The idea is that if you have any bacteria or other pathogens, it should get trapped inside that mucus. And because it is trapped inside that mucus, it doesn't continue and go into the rest of our body. So by being trapped in that hairs, in that mucus, it will either be removed or stay away from the rest of our body in general. So the skin is a barrier, stomach kills things actively because of its high acidity, and the nose, trachea and the bronchi use hair and mucus to stop things getting any further into the body. Unfortunately, some things do get through, and there are three things that our body does to get rid of a pathogen once we are infected. This is a very, very, very basic diagram of bacteria, normal kind of rectangular shape, and then we have a flagella here. And on the outside of this, we have a little square. This is our antigen. Now the antigen is like a little signpost that says, I am Ebola, I am SARS, I am a specific type of bacteria. Antigens are basically what's left over when we find these things. And it is the antigens, these signposts, that we react to. Your white blood cells will release things called antibodies. And antibodies match the antibody. So the antigen and the antibody match shapes. So say, for example, if we had a different antigen, if we had, for all intensive purposes, a triangular antigen, the antibody would have a different shape. If we had, again, for all intensive purposes, a semicircle antigen shape, this antibody wouldn't work, it's the wrong shape. This antibody wouldn't work, it's the wrong shape. You would need to have a different one that fits. And this is why we say that antibodies are specific to a particular type of disease, because if it doesn't match, it doesn't work. So antibodies do a couple of things. First of all, they mark a bacteria as a pathogen. So it's a little bit like putting a big neon sign on the outside of something that says, this isn't supposed to be here, please get rid of this, danger, remove please. So it marks it as a pathogen so that all of the other types of white blood cell know that it has to be got rid of. And they can also clump bacteria together, because if it can't move, it can't multiply. If it can't multiply, it's going to stop being able to infect new cells. So by keeping them all in one place and marking them as pathogens, we know where all of the bad guys are, they can't go anywhere, and we can find them. So the white blood cells can fix everything. This one here is another type of white blood cell, and this does phagocytosis, which basically means, just like Pac-Man, it comes along and it gobbles it up. Phagocytosis. So this little bacteria would get gobbled up by our phagocyte and it would be removed and got rid of. We also might see that it then displays the antigens to activate other white blood cells. So phagocytosis is when we do Pac-Man gobbling up things that we've discovered ourselves or things that have been marked as pathogens. Great. So antibodies and phagocytosis kill and get rid of anything that we have become infected. But we don't actually feel better yet. Bacteria release toxins, and these toxins are the things that cause us to have the aches and the pains. Toxins are what you need to get rid of in order to feel better. So white blood cells can produce antitoxins, and antitoxins neutralise the effect of the toxins. They make you feel better. Antitoxins work in exactly the same way as taking a painkiller does. It kills and gets rid of the pains and the aches, and the symptoms are gone. You feel better. But if you're only using antitoxins, or if you're only using painkillers, you're not actually fighting and getting rid of the bacteria or other pathogen in your body. So antitoxins make you feel better because it takes away all of your symptoms, but it doesn't actually kill them. Whereas phagocytosis kills, and antibodies mark as pathogen and clump, and in some cases can also kill. So this one killing, this one kind of killing and marking for being killed, and this one making you feel better is the reason why you can fight off diseases if you do become infected. So if you are in a situation where you have become infected and there's really nothing that you can do about it, all of these non-specific systems haven't worked and something has still managed to get into your body that you need to get rid of, even though you've been washing your hands and you've been coughing into a tissue and your stomach acid is really acidic, these three things will fix it. Phagocytosis, antibodies and antitoxins which make us feel better.